Hey everyone, welcome back. So, yesterday we ended the stream while we were trying to figure out how to actually make this database entry, right? So, we tried to create a new database and then we tried to create a document. And this document required this document required few properties like your database ID, your collection ID, and we created those, right? So, we created the database ID and collection ID. And for document ID, we ended up using the id.unique. And let's go back to the database or the console, because if you remember at the end, I was like trying to figure out where this permission exists. So finally I found it. So after ending the stream, I clicked at few places and then I realized, okay, this is where it exists. So I was trying to figure it out, like find it here, but it was actually not here. So I went to the document, and then inside document there is a setting, and inside setting there is a permission. So you have to set the permission for the first time, like what kind of users actually can access this particular row, a particular collection, not on row basis but on collection basis. So I ended up adding any, and I said, okay, anyone can create, read, update, and delete as of now. And you can also make like only users can, only guests can, and specific user and specific teams. That's an great way to actually build a row, what you can say, row-based access, or what do you call RBAC, row-based access control, right? So you can have permission on each and every record. So we'll continue from here. So if you are following this tutorial and wondering where to set the permission, this is where. So you can go to settings and then choose the role, specific role. And as of now, we have set it on any. Once we have login in place, then we will basically remove it and then make sure that only uh, logged in users are able to create, update, and delete. Read can be anyone. And then you have to add all the attributes here. So if you try to add an attribute which does not exist, it will throw an exception. So we can see that, right? So here, let's say we have quantity, name, image. So I have created everything: quantity, image, price, description, name. So you can see name, quantity, image, price, description, and name. But let's say if I try to add one more property which says rating, right? And then I say rating is 4. And if we try to call this, let's see what happens. And I'll just run this application again. I'll just change few things because product one, it's okay. Product one already exists. I can delete the record. Like these are all temporary records. So of course I can remove them. So let's go back to serve and let's serve our main application. I'm a little bit working on my lights as well. I think you can see right now the lights have changed, but yeah. And what we will do is we will also set the different ports for both our application, because right now it uses 4200 for both. And if you want to run both, it may cause an error saying, okay, this port is already being used, use another port, and you don't want to actually see that error. So here let's go back and to inspect, because it already made a call, and you can see it says invalid document structure, unknown rating, unknown attribute rating. So if I have to actually allow this, I have to go back and add this particular attribute here. You can choose what type of attribute it would be. For example, rating, it can be integer, right? And then you can define what can be the minimum value, but what can be the maximum value as well. So that's a good thing, that you can actually build all those validations in your database itself. Let's go ahead and remove this. And now we will see that there is no error, but we will see, we will get this response which is coming back from the database. You can see there is a database ID, collection ID created at, and then there are permissions as well. So it gives you permissions object, so you can like build your authentication, let's say if you want to. And so that's a very amazing uh, thing which it will allow you to build more intuitive UI. And let's go back to the documents, and you can see there's two records, right? So you have product one, product two, description, quantity, and everything, right? Including image. You are like, can see what this value is. I can also update from here if I want to. Like, of course, it's a uh, the something which you can do from every database. I'm sure. The only thing is they don't give you a nice UI to do that. So, and yep. So far what we have done is we just created this. Uh, we created in first video we tried AppWrite, sorry, not AppWrite. We tried RX Angular, right? So we saw how we can do state management, and then next video yesterday we actually ended up adding this AppWrite SDK, and we tried two APIs. So we tried account and we tried databases. So if you go to this, I mean, there are multiple products, or you can say multiple offerings AppWrite has. One is auth. So this is what we did. When you use account, you can actually go ahead and make some API calls, right? So you can see the API for creating a user. I mean, there are more you can actually create. You can create a JWT token for authentication. And we have databases. We may end up using storage. Maybe we can explore this as well. But right now, let's go ahead and build some capabilities on top of this, right? What I want to do is we want to complete the product UI. So admin who should be able to add product, admin should be able to remove product or delete and edit as well, right? So here, let's go back to our store. So this is the product or product library which we created, and we will do one more thing. So if you remember in Angular, we mostly work with observables, right? And this is, you can see promises, right? So we are actually using .then, and then if successful, we are actually getting the data, or in case it fails, we are actually displaying the error. So we will create some services. We already have a service, right? Last time we created an app product service. If I'm not wrong, let's see here, AppWrite. So we created an AppWrite service, which is just for authentication, right? So it just not for authentication, but like initializing your client, which we can use anywhere we want. So we don't want to actually initialize the client everywhere. We end up using this particular service, or wherever we want to use AppWrite. So similarly, what we can do is we can create more services, like say one service for product, which uh, calls, or which has different methods, like for add product, delete product. Yeah. Similarly, like when we integrate HTTP client calls, right? When we have an API and then you call those APIs. If uh, e-commerce, I think there are APIs which also exist, so you can actually go ahead and see REST, and it will tell you what are the different APIs. You can also make an API call, and this will allow you to do everything as well. So what we should do, I mean, let's try email, password, and what we need, AppWrite project and content type. So this is something which you need to pass in header. And let's see how does your server databases calls looks like, and then we'll figure out. So we have AppWrite key, AppWrite project key. This is server authentication. We don't need that right now. JWT file handling. Where is the databases permissions and unique methods? Just see. Mm, references, account, databases. Is there an uh, REST API here as well? Yep. So we have databases, database ID, collection ID. This looks pretty straightforward. So what we will do is we will use APIs. So it makes our, like, as an Angular developer, uh, hey, okay, I have a question here. Are you trying to session dot deploy Angular application using NG-X? I generally use like Netlify for all deploying all my applications, but if this is something which is interesting, probably we can do that maybe in something which we can do later, but right now not. This is not something which I have planned. I just use Netlify, which because it's very simple to do the deployment using Netlify. Great. So let's see. Endpoint is limited to 120 requests in every 1 minute. That's more than enough. So we have databases, example request. Where is the example request? Or am I missing something? Uh, No, I don't think so. Or is if this is the example request or something is broken in document. Cool. So for HTTP request, we need database ID, collection ID, databases, we want databases ID, collection ID, documents. So I'm just wondering where to pass this project ID, because that's something which is needed for sure. Create a document. Yeah, let's use REST APIs. So we don't have to use this client SDK, but now you know if you want to use client SDK, this is how you can do it. And let's create our services. So I'll say, okay, this is a product service. I think we already have a product for our product component, which we created earlier, but we don't have, we do have some states as well. And it exists inside common. So you see in SRC, we have lib, and then there's something called product. We have product service, and we can, like, of course, make our API calls here because we already have some for getting the data. And let's do one for adding the product. And this is where we'll change the APIs, and we will be able to use this call inside our front end and back end both. And this is where it becomes more interesting that we will be able to use two different state management, like for our e-commerce website, we will be using NGRX, and then for admin, we will be using RX Angular. So let's do a product. And let's say, okay, this is type of product. And we'll say, okay, this is return this.http.post product. And for product API, let's go back and see. So we have v/v1 databases and documents. Document, I'll just make it smaller. So v1 databases, this is database ID. So this is how you can do it. Database ID and collection ID. And we can set this to, like, of course, on our, but we also need a few more things. We need the base URL, because of course this will try to actually look out for this API on my localhost 4200, which does not exist for sure. So what we need here, we need our URL, which we already have, and let's append that, and then we try to make our first API call. So AppWrite service, and this is where we have the URL. Where is that? So URL exists inside the app, right? So we passed it here, app config. So this is HTTP client AppWrite. And I will call this as const base URL. So we'll append it into our URL. Say, okay, this given, we already have this given into our URL. So we'll say, okay, base URL, this dot base URL, not base URL. And then databases, database ID. We need database ID as well. So it's okay, this is database ID. And we need collection ID. So let's copy those. We also need project ID. I'm sure this is something which we need to pass in the header. So we'll copy this as well. And probably we can move it later, like somewhere else. So we can use it in every other service we use. For example, we will be using for authentication. We'll, of course, we need product. Then we will create something for cart and what orders. Right? Those API, those services we probably need all this everywhere. But yeah, one step at a time, right? So don't try to do everything together. And this dot collection ID. And to make our API call, we also need these we need to set the headers. So let's see X AppWrite project. So this is something which we need to pass in our headers. And we can actually pass headers using HTTP headers. And let's do it for product ones. And then we'll like see how we can do it for everyone. The best way to do it is using HTTP interceptors, which we'll see. Hey, Karthikeyan, thank you so much. Um, do share this like with your friends who are trying like planning to learn Angular. I'm also learning. This is not something which I know. You can see I'm just trying to explore app, right? But this is how we learn, right? We can learn together. And if you are interested in contributing, just let us know. I'm looking for someone who can help on the UI side. If you know Angular, if you know Material, or if you know any other library, or if you know CSS, you can just contribute. So what we need is this AppWrite project and then project ID. We already have the project ID, so let's go ahead and create header is equals to new HTTP see. So HTTP headers. This is what I need. And then you can add a header and the value, right? So I can say, okay, this is X separate project and this dot project ID. Okay, so I'm probably doing it wrong. I haven't used like HTTP headers for some time. So of course I check the document. Angular.io headers, and let's see how we add one header. And there should be an example. No. Has keys set. Okay. HTTP headers has dot. Okay. So set, and then we can say name and value. Yeah. Document works. So we go back to our API, copy this. This is my project ID, and this dot project ID is the project ID. So we need to pass this header. Now let's see where we can do that. So when we make an HTTP post call, we can pass multiple parameters, right? So one is, of course, first one is your URL, second is your data. And let's see, when we click third one, this is where you can pass headers. So we can actually say, okay, um, header is actually this dot header. And now we can replace the SDK call which we made, right? So we made we directly access the uh, AppWrite SDK. We created a client and then we called the databases to create an entry. So we have to change few things. For example, first is, of course, I want to use this product interface, replacing the older one which we added previously. But we have to also verify that, okay, all the properties exist as it is. And to do that, first let's go ahead and verify what are the different properties which we have inside our collection. So here DB product, and then we have attributes. So this is all the records we have, and we can also see the response. So we have something known as $ID. So you see, we have $ID databases ID, which actually we get in the response as well. We can see this into our network panel, and you will be able to see there are some calls like this is one of them, and we have description, image, name, price, quantity, but we also have ID, $ID, and let's see how they look like in our JSON. So this is the payload. You can also verify, I think AppWrite also makes this, converts this into headers, and it passes it here. So we should be able to see project ID here. Yeah, X AppWrite project, you see. So this is the same thing which we are doing now, rather than actually making request from AppWrite SDK, which converts everything and makes an API call. We are just like directly making an API call now. This is our data, perfectly fine. We also want to pass document ID. So we have document ID, and then it is ID dot unique. We have in response we have $ID. Let's see. Yeah. We'll keep this ID because this is something which won't be passed if we are not setting it. So we don't have to worry about like having this as an extra property. The rest of the things we have title, price, category. I'll just pass something called name because we have name into our main attribute, but we don't have something called title. I think for product, name makes more sense rather than actually having a title. And this is done. This is our add product API call, which we have here now. And let's go back to the product library, and we will replace this. We'll comment this out, the database. And here we have add product, and we will add or use the new API here. So first thing, we need the product service. So it will not make this API call anymore. It's okay. This is private product service, which is type of product service. And okay, so we already have a product service which created like for our RX Angular service, or yeah. Okay, so this is something which we created previously, and we'll name this as product RX service. Let's go ahead and do that right now. I mean, mm, and I think there are a few more places where it is used, so I'll just replace them. Product here. This is okay. I have to import it from common slash here, and let's import the previous product service which existed from Acts org/common. So, and will ask, hey, give me the product service, not sale. Okay. You see, we are not able to use product service because we have not exported the product service. So we can do now. So we can say, hey, give me or make the product service accessible outside of this library. Earlier, we didn't need it because we had our store, right? So we were using NG store and we were happy with that. So now we will say, okay, give me product service too, so we can use it outside. And let's see. Okay, we got the product service. And here on click, so we already have this actions.app product. We'll comment this out and we'll say, hey, now make an API call product service.app product. And what we need here is we need to pass the product. So this is, and let's pass ID. We don't need to pass ID, but yeah, description, price, image URL, quantity, and we have to, of course, to subscribe, otherwise we will not get the data. And here, what is this? A string is not a symbol to number. Okay. I'll make one more thing. I'll make this properties optional, which we don't need to pass. We don't need to pass ID. We don't need to pass title. I think rest is okay. We can use them, and I still have some error. I'll fix those. Mm, So let's go back to our component and let's see. And what is this image URL complaining about? Parameter of type product, object literally. Specify known properties. Image URL does not exist on type product. Okay, this is interesting because I think, let's see, image. Okay, we have image, not image URL. And this is image. What else is missing? Property category. Yeah, so I'll say, okay, category is clothes, clothing, and we need to add this category into our database as well. So we'll do that. And now it has started complaining about product ID. Undefined quantity number is not assignable. Product ID types of property, product ID are incompatible. What I changed? What I've changed? Okay, let's see. Because I have not updated any properties, but we have ID, title, and nothing changed. So why suddenly I have so many errors? Let's do console.log and data. And so we at least have one error less to worry about. And then we can see what these types are, why it is complaining about these types. Properly product ID are incompatible with number undefined. Okay, because I made it optional. Oh my god. Uh, no problem. Even okay, if we pass this data, of course we have to create an property, and this is taken care. Only this has an issue. What we can do is, where I'm just trying to figure out where is the error now. So we have is not assignable to product ID, number ID. Should I use this? Whatever. So we can do one thing. Let's see, .ts. Pick this right now, and let's go back. So we don't get this error. Okay. And add product has this error. Okay, I'm passing it. Don't cry. So this is number. Let's okay, this is true. If I change it to something else, I mean, it will create more issues. So, hey, Subham, hi. Yeah, okay. So your name is Ashish. So I thought your name is Shubham. Sorry. I'm good. I'm good. How are you? And thank you for joining back. So let's keep this ID as number, and let's try to make our API call and see what happens. So this is successful now, and let's go back to our application. Let's see the console. Null, not okay. This is interesting. Wow, we got a new error, so we can discuss something new. So it says, okay, what you are trying to do is you are trying to make an HTTP client call, or you are trying to invoke an HTTP method, but actually you have not provided this service. So far, we have actually used HTTP in our like e-commerce app, not in our admin app. So what you have to do is you have to provide this HTTP client, and the way to do it is the same way as we did for our client app or the user side app or e-commerce app. To do that, we have to say provide HTTP client, and once we do this error should be gone. And here it is. The error is gone. So what we want to try is we want to try our first HTTP, AppWrite API call. Let's go ahead and do that. Click, and interesting. So we have an error. So it says parameter document ID is not optional. So we are not passing the document ID which is needed. And of course, we should pass it. Let's see. But at least it makes now we are aware that this API call actually went to the AppWrite because this is something which is received from the backend. So we have database ID, collection ID, and what we wanted to do is we have to pass the document ID. And document ID is something which we pass using id.unique. So I'll add this one more property into our product.ts. It's okay. This is document. We can also verify the rest. Okay, REST API call. Do we have something for databases here? API databases references, and what we need is REST. So this is where you can select what kind of platform you want to use. So we have database ID, collection ID. Okay, this is it, and then document ID. So you can see we have in HTTP request. You can choose your own unique ID, or you can pass id.unique to auto-generate it. Makes sense. So we have document ID, but where to pass it? This is something pretty interesting. So we have, this is some, uh, we know the data. Okay, we just pass the data, but how to pass the document ID? We don't have any simple example request. It says example request, but does not exist. Let's see. Examples, point 10x, web, REST. Is there anything called REST? PHP, Node, console, client, web, databases, create document. So, okay, this is SDK. I don't want to use SDK. I just wanted to do REST APIs, and I don't see REST APIs. Okay, so what we can do is there is a way to like figure it out how to pass this, but I'll pass a document ID here. Hope it does not break anything. I mean, my existing types. Yeah, it's okay. And to verify how to pass the document ID, we can go back and enable our old code. So, because if you remember, actually what AppWrite is doing is it's just converting everything into a REST API call, and so we can see it. So I'll just uncomment this one from create database, and I have to just make sure that I comment this. So we know where should we pass this. Hey, Karthikeyan, yes, I think the repository is already published. So if you go back, go to github.com and go to my profile, which is Santosh tab. And I think I have now added it into the pinned repositories. So you can refer this one, courses by Santosh, e-commerce app. So this is the app. So yeah, just in case anyone else is trying to figure out where the repository is. So this is the one, the last one. Yeah. So this is done. Let's go back and see why it still loads. So we go to network. This is the documents called. Okay, so we pass data object and document ID as separate object. Okay, so this is how it looks like. I mean, this is also how you can figure out how to pass the request payload. So we have request headers, and this is my payload. This is how it looks like. So we have data property where we have passed everything, and we also have document ID. So here, let's go back to the service. AppWrite lib, not this one. Product service. So we have product, which is the data we are passing. Can we do something like we pass document ID, which is we can actually take ID from unique, ID.unique from right, and then we pass the product, or we just pass the product. So we pass it as an object. Let's see. Hmm. So console add product. Okay, so we still have an error. It says the document payload is missing. Okay, this is interesting because I thought everything is okay now. Okay, so we have document ID, we have okay product. And how does the original one looks like? Data and document ID. Data and document ID. So let's change this and we call this as data. Save this. And product till 44. So now we have, I think looks correct to me, data, document ID. I think the error should be something else. So let's see, database not found. Database not found because I think this databases collection is wrong. And this might be So let's go back and verify if we have correct values. The database is, yeah, it was incorrect. The reason being, I just accepted some random value, auto-generated values from GitHub Copilot, and that's what caused this. Let's now try again. Add product, 400 what response, document invalid structure. Great. So we have an extra attribute called ID, and makes sense. We are just passing this as an extra. So what we can do is we can actually for data, we can say we will just pass the properties which we need. Product dot what we need is name, and why there is no typing. Okay, this is something very interesting. Okay. Why I'm not seeing other properties? Let's see. PD is equals to, let's say, okay, this is product dot name. What else we need? Name, category, no description. We need image URL. Yeah, so image. So I can also rename. So I can say image. Let's see, and then we'll fix the types. I mean later, because this should be image URL, which is basically image. What else? We need price. We need quantity. All the structure elements are used. That's fine. So quantity. What else? Name, description, price, quantity, image URL. Okay. And then we can actually use them here. Let's see what I'm missing. Object destructuring. We have this. So do we need to pass them as one? We have name, description. Okay. Image URL, price, and final is quantity. Remember, you don't have to do this. I mean, we have our interfaces, which is different. So that's why we have to do it. Otherwise, this should be okay. Name, description, price, image, URL, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So we have 5 objects here, and let's go ahead and give it a try. Hmm. Click on add product, and yes, it worked. So we have our data, and now we can see the response. So in response, it is actually giving us the same product with a new ID. And you can actually, like, we can save this into our database, or sorry, not database, we can save this into our state, retrieve this whenever we need this. And yeah, let's see what this URL is. I mean, I think it's something which got auto-generated by, okay. So this URL is something which I got it from GitHub Copilot. This just suggested that this URL exists, so I just took it. But in what we will do is we will actually create a form and probably upload, give an image URL, like some random URL from internet, and then use that image URL for our products. And what is okay? So we created our ad product. And what else we need? So ad product is something which we can use at both the places, like front and back end. Not, I mean, the portal where we show the product for users, and then we do we need no, we just need it for our admin portal. So add, let's go back and set up some navigation. Right? So we don't have the navigation so far for our main app, and we need, of course, we need a login, and we need then an dashboard kind of thing. And to do that, we will be using Angular Material, because I think that's one of the library I have used a lot. But do you think there is another library which we can use? I have heard a lot about, let's say, Angular UI libraries. Let's see what are the options which we have. Of course, I'm not going to use any paid ones. So of course, Fusion, this is out of the picture. So Angular UI libraries, open source, and I've heard about this one a lot, and design for Angular. And let's do this, and let's see what are the different actually components which exist here. So components, button, divider, navigation. Okay, they have breadcrumbs, drop down menu. So this is what we need. Navigation. So this looks nice. So I'll just use this one, ng, and let's see if I have started this repository. I haven't done so far. Let's give it a start, and let's do it. Let's install it. And so version 16.1.0. This is nice. You can also install NG-ZORRO entity with npm or yarn. So we can create a new project, ng-add, and we will do manual install here, and we are going to use it for our admin app. So let's add it. Because in past I have used ng bootstrap, ng bootstrap. I have used Angular Material. Of course, for my all the enterprise applications, I have used Angular Material, and never tried this NG-ZORRO or Ant Design, but I've heard about it a lot. And the other one which I have heard is uh, hmm, Prime NG. So this is also a nice UI. Prime NG. Probably we should create something using this. Probably one more application where we can actually use Prime NG. Sorry. And okay, let's give it a star here as well. Prime faces Prime NG. Kakata SCP key. Oh, yeah, we do follow each other on Twitter. Let's see. Once it is installed, we will do the setup. So do what we need to do for this after you install usage. Okay, this is how we use this. Uh, Add import style and SVG icon asset link in angular.json. So we can do this. Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure why it is taking time. Okay, done. So we installed this one, and then it says to load the assets. We should do this one. Add import style and SVG icon asset link. So let's do this. We need to do this for our app. So remember this says angular.json, but in NX we don't have an angular.json. Rather, there is a project.json which exists, and you can add it here. So we can say, okay, this is styles. So let's see, I think it's here in options, not here. It should exist. Operation serve. Okay, I'm looking at the project.json of the library. I'm not sure why. Here. So this is AppWrite. No, this is again the library. So I have to go to app, this one, project.json, and here it is. So we have to add this into styles, and we have to add it inside assets. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just remove this plus. This is for icons. So, and this is the last one. Okay, so we have this setting in place. Let's go ahead and serve the application. npx serve. Hello, hey, I'm Mr. Matt. Thank you for joining. I'm just about to end the stream, but I mean, just to give you an idea, we just ended up using AppWrite REST API rather than actually using the SDK. So we made that switch, and we are just adding ng and design for Angular. And let's see. Okay, so one thing is clear that end design is loaded because I can see the fonts have changed, and we can also inspect to make sure that everything is working fine. There's no error. Yep, there's no error. There is AppWrite SDK error. Okay, this is something which was expected because we installed it and then we used it in our project. We'll get rid of it later on, but we can verify it in element, or we can just look at in the network, right? So we can see there should be yeah, multiple style sheets. runtime style.js. So this is probably from Enter Design. This is not ours. Cool. So we added we ended up using the AppWrite API. We added end design, and we will continue with this on Monday, right? So we will create our app product screen, and we will also set up some routes. I think if I get some time, I'll just set up the routes so we don't have to do that again. And start with the coding, or start with the UI, where we add a new product. Thank you again, and you all wish you all a very happy weekend, and hope you enjoy your weekend with your families. Or if you are single, sleep the entire day, or do whatever you want to go out and make some friends. And see you next time. Bye bye.